So let's continue then with laying that foundation of knowledge that will inform our decisions a bit later on as we get into actually configuring these different backup jobs in the demonstration modules coming up later. It's here in this module where I want to explore the architecture of Veeam backups and very specifically what exactly Veeam is doing when you configure a backup job. Here in this module, we have what seems a pretty long list of topics, but rather I just want to explore in great detail here the various concepts that then define what these different image level backups actually are. I'll walk you through the exact series of steps that Veeam goes through whenever you kick off then a job against a virtual machine. And I also want to, for each of the three major types of backup jobs that you can configure, help you figure out exactly why you would choose one over the other. The first of these is the forever forward incremental backup, the second being the forward incremental backup, and the third being the reverse incremental backup. Now, what's important here is that these terms don't actually exist in the Veeam console. And so what we're talking about here is actually just a high-level concept that we'll then need to translate into a configuration as we start building jobs later on. I show you all three of these in pretty good detail because each of these configurations will have a dramatic impact on the backup process as well as the restore process and the time to restore. Each of these three will also be impacted by whatever retention policies are required by your corporate policies. These retention policies will determine the behavior of each of these configurations. And so you'll see various different kinds of files on disk and experience different behaviors based off of which of these three you configure for each individual job. And so we'll walk through all three of these different job types as well as the retention policies impact on each so that you understand which ones you might configure for each of your individual use cases. Now, for each of these, there ultimately will be a file that ends up on disk. And so I want to spend just also a very quick minute here talking about those files that'll exist in your repository and specifically their file types. You will end up with a lot of different files that exist in that repository, and you should know which file types then correspond with which of the activities you've generated for each of your backup jobs. And so I'll show you here one quick slide of the different file types and how they correlate with all the different configurations we're making. And then lastly, we'll talk about the 3-2-1 rule, which is just a good best practice for setting up backups in any environment. The 3-2-1 rule, as you'll find out, essentially states that it's good to have more than one copy of data laying around.